Hello and welcome to another episode of Learn BMX Racing. I'm Eric Muss-Barnes.
I'm Ashley Sayers.
And this episode we're going to be telling you the 7 beginner steps to getting started with BMX. I should note that USA BMX, which is the sanctioning body for all BMX tracks in the United States, has a fantastic piece of literature on their website called the New Rider Manual. And it covers a lot of the basics that I will be covering in this video, plus a lot more. Now, their basic steps are 5 steps to getting started, but for this video, I've turned it into 7. So the very first thing, and this actually came up when I was talking to a friend of mine because I didn't think of this as the first step, but the first step is know how to ride a bike.
Of course.
The friend of mine that I was talking to, I mean, I think she's over 30. She's like 31, 32. She doesn't know how to ride a bike. So,
well, you're never too old to start.
No, that's true. But the point is that when I mentioned it to her and I was talking about learning BMX, she said, how about learning to ride first? And I was like, oh, really? Like, okay.
It's a big key factor.
Yeah, that's kind of important. I hadn't thought of that. So there are actually a number of tips on how you can teach yourself how to ride, and here's a few of those. So if you have absolutely no idea how to ride a bike, this is the way that I learned, okay? Don't try to pedal, because when you try pedaling, that knocks your balance off back and forth. So when you first try to ride, all you should do is sit on the seat, get the pedals kind of out of your way, and then push off with your feet and coast, kind of like this. That's all you got to do. Very simple. And then, once you have done that a bunch of times, and you feel comfortable with it, and you can actually keep your balance, then you add in pedaling. But if you try to pedal and you try to learn how to balance all at the same time, it's really difficult. And that's one of the reasons that it can take kids a long time to learn. So don't do that. Just push and coast. It doesn't really matter if you learn how to turn first or if you learn how to pedal first. But you should definitely learn how to balance before you learn pedaling or turning. So that's why I show this as option A and option B. You can kind of go either way, whichever one you are more comfortable with. So if you're really young or you have really young kids who want to learn how to ride, you can actually get them a little bike that's called a strider.
So a strider is a little miniature bike with no pedals, and it teaches the kids how to push and get used to like being on a bike, balancing with handlebars in their hand, and there's a lot of tracks. Mostly every track has a strider track. Okay, so step number 2 is to find your local track. You can go to USA BMX and they have all the tracks listed. You can just look up your city and find the closest one to you.
And another thing you could do is go to Learn BMX Racing, and I actually have a map of the entire country with little markers set out for every single track. And you know an interesting bit of trivia that I learned from creating that map? Guess what? You'll never guess. There are 2 states that actually don't have a track.
Really?
Yeah, and only 2. And it's like weird ones that you would like, it's just random, like it doesn't.
2 states?
2 states that don't have BMX tracks. And the only reason I know this is because I now have the map, so I could see all of the United States and see all the markers. So
what are they?
West Virginia and Maine.
Maine? I can kind of guess Maine. It's up there. I mean...
But Alaska has a track.
Oh, really?
Yes, Alaska has 1 BMX track in Alaska.
That track would be really cool, I bet.
Yeah, just so you could say that you rode the only track in Alaska. But so yeah, if you're watching this and you're in Alaska, I'm really sorry. There's only 1 track. It might take you a while to get there.
At least there is one, though.
Yeah, but at least there is one. So yeah, that's step number 2, finding a local track. The third step in learning how to race BMX is to actually visit the track. Now, I really recommend this simply because it can be very intimidating if you're new to this whole thing and maybe you don't know what to expect. So, rather than trying to get a bike and show up and do the whole thing, don't do all that. just go and talk to people and learn a little bit about what the culture is like and what the people are like. And the people tend to be very, very friendly at BMX tracks. That's one of the things that I found the most interesting about BMX is learning how much it is a very family-oriented sport.
I personally go to the track and I know all the kids and all their families and parents. They all come out and support their kids. The kids support their dads even and moms.
Right.
So it's definitely a family sport and everyone gets to ride together, which is the fun part.
Yeah. So keeping all that in mind, when you do visit a track, it's like, don't be intimidated. Just walk up to people and talk to them. They're always very open to beginners. Everybody always wants the sport to grow and to have more people involved. So they're always very eager. It's like, oh, hey, it's a new face, and they really welcome you. And it's a really cool thing.
There's plenty of people to help you out, help ride with you, give you tips. I mean, we're all here for you.
Hair in my mouth. I got hair in my mouth. I cannot speak. Okay. So one of the things that is, very different about, say, BMX and skateboarding. I'm always going back to skateboarding because that's what I'm so familiar with. With skateboarding, skate parks are pretty much open all day, every day. BMX tracks, unfortunately, aren't. They tend to be open for just a few hours. You have to find out the hours that they're open, and you have to have a membership when you ride there.
Yeah. And some days, or some tracks have practice days that are just dedicated to all practice, usually maybe 3 hours of the night, usually. Right. Other nights, it's maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of practice, and then racing to follow.
Yeah. So the fourth step is to get some safety gear. The requirement is that you have long sleeves, long pants, and a helmet.
Yeah.
Now, another common question that I've heard from people is simply where do you get a helmet from? Okay, a lot of people don't even know where to do that. Obviously, you can look online, and you can also go to a good bike shop.
Bike shop or even the motocross shop. They have helmets there.
Exactly. But don't go to department stores and places like that because they're either not going to have them or they're going to have helmets that are just not very good quality and aren't going to really protect you at all.
Gloves. Not a lot of people... No, wait, let me say that again. Hold on. Because a lot of people do wear them. Gloves. A lot of people wear them. Some don't, but it helps me grip onto the bike, especially when I'm sweating. So when I'm holding onto my grips and I'm wearing the gloves, I can grip a lot easier. With sweat, obviously, you're going to be slipping right off.
Right.
Also, when crashing, it helps a lot. You don't ruin your hands.
Yeah, road rash on your hands is not fun. Yeah. Shoes.
Shoes are a very important part of your gear set. You need a shoe that the bottom of them is kind of cut out to fit in the pedals, or else you're going to be slipping pedals, and trust me, that's not fun. No, it's not fun.
So yeah, Vans are a super popular shoe for skateboarding and for BMX. I pretty much always wear Vans.
Me too.
And I usually wear the high tops just because I like the ankle protection, which, again, not as important for BMX, but for skateboarding, I always did that.
So if you don't have gear yet, or if you're not sure exactly what to buy, you can always borrow gear from your local track.
Yeah, and that's the reason that I'm telling you this stuff in this order. The reason that you should go find the track first is because a lot of the tracks do have gear that you can borrow. They have bicycles that you can borrow. So if you don't have all the gear, if you don't have a bike, it doesn't matter. You can still go to a track and borrow something.
Try it out to see if you like it first before going and spending all your money on stuff that you might not use.
Exactly. But not every single track has loaner equipment. So that's why it's important to find the track, go there, and get all that information first. So the next step, the fifth step, is to get a bike. Now, you have a lot of different options there. You could borrow one, from the track or from a friend. You could get a used bike. You could buy a bike that's already built, or you can build your own. Here are a few examples of some of my bicycles that I have both customized and built from scratch. So this first one is my 1991 Haro Master, which I purchased as a complete bike, and then I customized by putting on mag wheels and changing a few of the components. This bike is my 2019 Chase Edge race bike. Again, I purchased this bike as a complete bicycle, and then I changed a few components like the tires and the pedals and the handlebars. And this bicycle right here is one that I built completely from scratch. This is my 1988 Haro Master, and I had just a frame and fork, and that's what I started with, and built up all the components from there. Another thing that I wanted to mention in regard to all of your options for getting a bike is if you're brand new to the sport, you obviously don't build your own bike. Only do that once you have some experience. Plus, you know, that is the most costly option. So
Yes. Parts get expensive.
and spending a lot of money to build a bike when you don't really know what you're doing, not a good idea. So either borrow one, get a used one, or buy a complete.
Yeah. When I first started out, we bought a few bikes off Craigslist, but we made sure that they're all good, no cracked frames, obviously, no bad parts, but I recommend buying a used one or borrowing one first.
Yeah. And when you do buy a complete, also make sure that you get a good quality bike from a bike shop, okay? Don't go getting a bike at a discount store for $80 or $100. Okay, those aren't the kind of bikes that you want to race on a BMX track. Now, I've seen other videos out there where people are giving advice, and a lot of people that are really into bicycling sports are, well, let's just say they really badmouth those kind of department store bikes. And I personally disagree with that. I do think there's a place for them. I think that if it's a really young kid, I would say below a teenager, right? And you just want a bicycle that you're going to ride to your friend's house or ride to school, then those cheap bikes at the department store are perfectly fine.
That's what I learned on.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with those. But you don't want to be racing a track like this and jumping on one of those kind of bikes because it will break.
Yep. So before riding the bike, make sure it doesn't have a kickstand, no reflectors, no foot pegs, no chain guard, no, what else?
Coaster brake.
Coaster brake. But make sure it does have a brake, handbrake.
Yeah. So the sixth step out of the 7 steps, that's hard to say, 6th step, I now have a speech impediment. The 6th step is to take a clinic. Yeah.
Yes, they're recommended. You don't have to do it.
Yeah, you don't have to.
But they are recommended. And there's usually one for every skill level. Just make sure you sign up for the right skill level.
Yeah, you don't want to be a beginner going to like an expert
No.
clinic because that will not be good. Yeah. Learning how to balance in the starting gate was one of the things that I was the most nervous about when I started racing BMX. The very first time that I ever raced a track, I went to a clinic being taught by the gentleman you see on the left, Rich Anderson. He, along with his daughter Danica, are both well-respected champion BMX racers. And thanks to his tutelage, on my second try, I was able to do gates.
I've been to a few clinics and I think they're really fun and very helpful. Just go to your local track, talk to people, see who's holding clinics and what other tracks may be holding clinics, and just go. It'll be fun.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough, like we are, being in California, we have a lot of tracks, so there's a lot of clinics, a lot of different options. You might live in a place where you don't have a lot of options, but again, it's something that can definitely be helpful, especially if you're new, if you're inexperienced and you're feeling kind of timid about going to a track and you don't want to be surrounded by all these people who know what they're doing, and you're brand new. So if you go to a clinic and learn a little bit of the basics, that can definitely help you out and help you be a lot more comfortable. And the final step is, if you decide that you really want to stick with BMX after all those other things, you need to get a membership to USA BMX. So the reason that you want to get the membership is because all of the tracks are sanctioned by USA BMX, and you actually have to be a member in order to ride at the track.
And race. So, hold
Right.
on. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Cut that out.
Now we'll just leave it all in. It'll be fine.
You don't have to get the annual membership. You could just go to the track and get a one-day membership and just try it out, see if you like it or not.
So thanks so much for watching this episode of Learn BMX Racing. I hope now you know how to get started in the sport with 7 very simple steps to getting out there and racing.
So good luck and have fun.
And remember, kids, as I always say, and I now have on the back of my jersey, what does it say?
Your good old days are happening right now.
Your good old days are happening right now.